What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of 90 Day Fiance Season 9, Episode 11. So let's start off with Kobe and Emily. They're looking for a bigger mattress because the mattress that they currently have is way too small for Kobe, Emily, and the baby. And Kobe has been sleeping in his own room, and he really wants to share the same bed with his son and Emily. So they finally find a bigger mattress. They're going to get it. And Kobe's just happy that Emily's finally taking his feelings and his wants into consideration. So moving on from there, Kobe wants to buy a better ring for Emily because she's been dropping subtle hints like a ton of bricks that she wants a new ring, a better ring, a ring with real diamonds. So he goes ring shopping with Emily's dad and Emily's sister. The dad says that I know Kobe came to the United States with very little money, but for him to buy a diamond ring is just stupid. The dad thinks it's a dumb idea. He thinks it's a waste of money for him to buy another ring. If only the father knew that Emily had bought probably a much more expensive ring on her own. If only he knew that. So the dad knows that Emily's always going to get what Emily wants. So there's no need to fight it. Kobe can't fight it. So let's just all give in and go buy this ring for Emily. The sister Madeline says it's crazy that Kobe is ring shopping when Emily already has a ring of her own. The whole thing is just so insane. Absolutely insane that she would go and buy herself another ring. And it's crazy that when they have very little money, he's not working, she's working part-time, that he has to spend money on a ring, which he could easily buy for her a little bit later on when they're a little bit more established and he is working. And then he can buy her the ring of her dreams instead of nitpicking, trying to, or like penny pinching to buy a ring that he can afford and one that she will also like. So, because I feel like in the future, after they're married, she's going to want something bigger and better anyway. So he's going to be constantly buying rings for her. So moving on from there. So they're looking at rings, and the sales associate, there's a particular ring that he was looking at, and it was about $7,000. And Kobe's like, for real? No, Kobe, for fake. They just put random numbers on the price tags of their pieces of jewelry. Yes, for real, it is $7,000. And you came to the United States with $4,000. So Kobe says that the prices of the rings could be, back in Cameroon for $7,000, you can buy a piece of land, you can start your own business, it can change your life in Cameroon. But here, people just throw it away on pieces of jewelry. So there is a ring that he sees, and the sister thinks that Emily would like it. The dad likes it, I guess. And so it's $1,100 after the discount that the sales associate gives them. And so that's the ring that he's going to present her with. And he says he loves Emily and he just wants to make her happy. So later on, they have a date night. And this is the night that he plans to propose to Emily with the ring that he bought her. So they're at the restaurant, and he's so nervous because he's worried whether or not she's going to like the ring. It's crazy how everything has boiled down to whether or not Emily is going to like the ring. It boils down to Kobe buying the right. Everything just boils down to this damn ring. Like, there's nothing about relationship. There's nothing about marriage, love, commitment, our future. It's just, is she going to like the ring? Is she going to like the ring? Because I guess nobody wants to be around if she doesn't like the ring. Nobody wants to see the wrath of Emily if she doesn't like the second ring that he gets her. So the waitress comes and gives them champagne, glasses of champagne. And as she's drinking her champagne, she notices the ring at the bottom of the glass. So she takes it out, puts it on. He proposes. She says yes. And she actually likes the ring. I think she genuinely liked the ring. So they go back home. She shows off the ring to her mother and her grandmother. And they all think that Kobe did, he made a really good decision with the ring. Emily really does like it. So as they're sitting there, like, she literally has her hand on his shoulder just to admire the ring, because the whole entire time she's got her hand on his shoulder and she's moving her fingers around, and the whole time she's just admiring the ring. So anyway, she finally decides that she's going to fess up and tell Kobe that she had already bought her own ring. So she starts off by saying, I have a confession. And he's like, okay, what? So she gets up, goes to her bag, gets the ring that she bought herself, and she gives it to him. And he's like, I don't understand. What is this? And she says, I bought my own ring. And he was like, okay, so you bought your own ring because you thought that I wouldn't buy your ring, especially after you had told her several times that he was going to buy her another ring. And I don't know what she said to that, but he felt really offended by that. He didn't even want to look at the ring. He didn't even open the box. He just gave the ring to her dad. He was like, I don't even want to look at it. And so he was like, you had no confidence in me that I was going to buy you a ring after I said I was going to buy you a ring. And she was probably, I don't know what she said. She was trying to play. It doesn't matter what she said because she was so focused on her new ring ring, the whole time she's just admiring this new ring on her finger. So Emily was like, oh, the father was like, well, how did you even afford this? Because the father's probably thinking, you don't contribute a damn thing in this household, but you got money to go buy yourself diamond rings just on the fly like that. So Emily was like, oh, it's no big deal. He gave me a really good deal on it. And, but she still didn't say how much it was. And he also said that I could return it at any time. So Kobe's feelings were hurt. He was so hurt that he was like, you know what, I'm just going to go to bed. And he got up and he left. I don't even think she noticed that he left because she was so busy looking at her damn ring. And not only that, but she took the ring she bought for herself. She put it on her finger along with the other ring that he bought her. And she was like comparing the two. And it's like, girl, you are so focused on these material trinkets. You don't even, did you notice your man leaving the room because he was so hurt about what you just did? Did you completely miss that? I mean, she was so focused on these rings. She didn't care about Kobe. So Kobe, this is a huge red flag, in addition to many other red flags in this relationship. And you're going to go through with this. We all know that you're going to go through with this because you say that you love her. Love conquers all, I guess. So good luck with all of that, Kobe. Moving on to Bilal and Shaida. So they're still in Atlanta. Every time we see Bilal and Shaida, they're more miserable than they are ever happy. So what does that tell you? Shahida is still upset about the prenuptial agreement. They're back at Nefertari's house, and Shahida's upstairs, and Bilal is talking to his sister downstairs. And he's talking about, their prenuptial agreement and how it really didn't go well. And he said that, he planned this really romantic day, and then when they were on the Ferris wheel, it looked like she was afraid of heights. And so to calm her down, he decided to bring up the prenup. And like to kind of shift her focus to something else. And Nefertari was like, that was not a good idea. That was not a good idea at all to do that. And so I guess looking back, he kind of regrets bringing it up when he did, because you can talk about all that stuff when you get back home to Kansas City. So while this conversation is going on, Shaida is upstairs and she's FaceTiming her sisters. And she tells her sisters about the prenup. And her sisters are like, no. No. If you're going to have to do a prenup, make sure that, you put something in there regarding your children. There's like some type of a time frame that, you have to have kids before you turn a certain age. So make sure that your interests are covered in that prenuptial agreement as well. And the sisters were also upset because they were like, he sees you like you're some poor island girl who just got off the banana boat and you're only here for his money. You had a whole entire life in Trinidad. You had your own career, doing your own thing. You're an independent woman in Trinidad. You're not some poor girl just looking for a come up. So the sisters were not happy about the prenuptial agreement at all. So back downstairs with Nefertari, he explains to his sister that it is important for him to do a prenuptial agreement because marriage is also about finances, not just about love. And he tells his sister, people get divorces over money. So I need to make sure that there's something in place to protect both of us. Whatever, Bilal. So then Bilal says, the sister asks him, well, what if she doesn't sign the prenup? And Bilal is like, well, I don't really know what I'm going to do because he's still chasing love. He still wants to be in a relationship. He still wants to be married. So he doesn't want something like a prenup to get in the way of all of that, but he still needs to protect his financial interest. So Bilal says something that kind of was sad, that kind of made me, feel sad for him. He says, everyone that has loved me or that I have loved has left me. And that made me feel so bad for him. And so because I guess he's so unlucky in love, he's like, you know what? Never again. I'm not going to be put in these really horrible financial situations when a relationship is over. So I'm going to protect myself. So this is the whole reason, I guess, he's doing the prenup. So the sisters, okay, so yeah, that's the end of that. So when he said that, I was like, oh, poor Bilal. It makes sense to him in his world. And I don't think there's anything wrong with a prenuptial agreement. I just want it to be fair for both people. I see nothing wrong with prenups, whether you're extremely wealthy or you're kind of wealthy or you're, middle of the road. I don't have a problem with prenuptial agreements. I just want to make sure that both parties' interests are protected, that it's a give and take situation, not just the one with the money, taking, and everything is to their advantage, and the one who's a little bit less well off has to just suffer the consequences and just be the one to sacrifice everything, and the risk is all on them. I don't like that. I think both interests should be included in the prenuptial agreement, and that it's a give and take. I'm going to gain something, I'm going to have to lose something to gain something. And it has to go both ways. You both have to lose to gain. So moving on from that, they're getting ready to go home. They're packing up. Of course, Bilal is packing up his clothes very neatly. Everything is fitting perfectly in his bag. And she's just stuffing everything in her bag. And after she stuffs everything in her bag, she's like yanking on the zippers. And he's like, oh, please don't yank the zippers. I guess she was borrowing his bag. And he was like, please don't yank the zippers. And, I know that it was just driving him crazy to see how she was stuffing her clothes in the bag without folding them properly. He probably had nightmares about it later on. So while they're packing their bags, she brings up the prenuptial agreement. And she says that, she had been talking to her birdies. And Bilal was like, and who are your birdies? And she was like, don't you worry about that. So she tells him that she wants to talk to his attorney. And she wants to put a clause in the prenuptial agreement that they will have kids before she's 40 years old. And I'm like, checkmate, Bilal. What do you have to say to that? So Bilal is like, well, it's kind of strange that you went from not wanting a prenup at all, and now you want to add your own clauses. Like, what's going on here? And Bilal said that he was hoping, well, okay, first of all, Bilal, there's nothing wrong with her wanting to add something for herself. Okay, you wanted a prenup. Let's have a prenup. But her interest has to be looked after as well. It cannot be a one-way street. So in his confessional, he says, I was really hoping that the trip to Atlanta would reignite the romance between us. But now it seems like we're even further apart. And I'm like, does you bringing up a prenup on a Ferris wheel ride have anything to do with that, with ruining the romance on your trip? Moving on from that. I was really proud of Shaida for if you want something in there, I want something in there too. Moving on. Benny and Ari. So Ari is still trying to improve her relationship with Benny because she feels like, he has lost focus on the relationship, on the family dynamic, because he just wants to be an MMA fighter. So she decides to have a meeting with both her fiance Benny and with her ex-husband Leandro. Leandro has reared his handsome head with those pretty hazel eyes once again. So they're out to eat, and it's Benny, Ari, and Leandro. And of course, Benny is not comfortable. He's like, this dude again. And because Leandro went all the way to Ethiopia in 90 days the other way, he traveled all the way to Ethiopia to visit Ari, when she called him and said that she needed his help, his advice, his whatever. He dropped his bags and he went straight to Ethiopia, to rescue his damsel in distress. So as they're talking, Leandro is asking about the fight. How did it go? And Benny says he won the fight in 33 seconds. And then they start talking about him training with a girl, and how Ari didn't like the fact that Benny was training with a female. And Leandro tells him that he doesn't communicate enough with Ari. He needs to communicate more with Ari. And then in the confessional, Leandro says that Benny's not paying enough attention to Ari. Why would Benny take it? And I'm like, okay, so this is bizarre. Let's not even act like this is a normal conversation or this is a normal setting. This is absolutely bizarre. It's 100% inappropriate for Ari to call her ex-husband to give advice to her soon-to-be husband, and everything is one-sided. Obviously, Ari and Leandro talked, and obviously Ari was like, hey, this is what I want you to tell him. She's using him to try to manipulate Benny into doing what she wants Benny to do. I guess because just the two of them talking just isn't enough. So her reinforcement is her ex-husband, who's going to come and chastise Benny and tell Benny where he's messing up. Did he talk about where Ari was messing up at all? No. So he's talking about, well, Benny, you need to communicate more with her. You need to be more open with her, etc. Benny, you're a very polite young man, but at some point, you got to bring out the hood in you. You got to bring out the street in you. you should have gotten up and been like, you know what? Why don't y'all continue having this conversation about my relationship alone? I got better things to do. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to the gym and go train. I'm gonna go find Melissa and see if she's ready to train later on today. That's what Benny should have done instead of just sitting there and taking this nonsense. Unbelievable. And to add insult to injury, Benny brings up the Ethiopian New Year is coming up and they're going to celebrate. And he's expecting it's just going to be him and Ari and Ari's family. Well, Ari takes it upon herself to invite Leandro to this celebration, a celebration that is regarding Benny's home country. She's inviting her ex-husband to that. So obviously, Benny didn't like it, but he's just too polite to say anything about it. And so, yeah, Leandro's going to be there. Ari invited Leandro to this celebration for Ethiopia. Benny. Honey, you are in a whole new country. And you can't let people make a fool of you like this, Benny. You just can't. You cannot sit there and let these people make a fool of you like this. You should have gotten up and left. You should have gotten up and left. Go find Melissa. Go train with Melissa, and then send pictures to Ari. That's what you should have done. Moving on. So it's time to celebrate the Ethiopian New Year, and they're driving to the restaurant. And guess who's in the car with them? Leandro. He's in the car with them. So they get to the restaurant. Janice is there. Ari's parents are there. Her sister shows up later. And Janice says in her confessional, or Janice says in her confessional that Leandro has been in their family for 10 years and he has a very tight relationship with all of them. And so he's like a fixture in that family. And then I'm thinking to myself, Ari, you have an issue with Benny training with a female, keeping it completely professional. You have an issue with that, but you see nothing wrong with flaunting your ex-husband in front of Benny's face, especially at something so important as the Ethiopian New Year. That's just so disrespectful, like on a million levels, Ari. So, and especially since it's obvious, I think it's obvious, that you still have feelings for Leandro, because every time she looks at Leandro, I mean, you can practically see the red hearts that are just pulsating from her eyes every time she looks at Leandro. So, one of the things that they do in Ethiopia is they feed each other at dinner. I don't know if this is at every dinner or on special occasions, but it's called something, and I missed what it's called, but you feed your relatives or you feed the people at the table. So Ari begins by feeding her mother, and then she was going to feed Leandro. Ari herself was going to feed Leandro, but Leandro didn't feel comfortable with it. So Benny gets up, and he's like, oh no, we're doing this. So he takes like a big old hunk of food and shoves it down Leandro's throat. And Leandro says in his confessional, I don't know what the hell he was trying to do when he shoved all that food down my throat, but it seems like he was trying to take out a threat. If you see yourself as a threat, Leandro, then you must really be a threat. So that means that you know that there's some weird shenanigans going on between you and Ari, if you see yourself as a threat. Because if you really had no feelings for Ari and Ari really had no feelings for you, then why would you be a threat? So moving on from there. So then the mother, she starts her mess. So she's asking Benny, so what else do y'all do? Okay, come on, let's do it. What else goes on with this Ethiopian New Year? What else do y'all do? And so he's trying to explain that, the new year brings new changes, and, we change everything in the house. We take out old I think he said old furniture, old paintings, and we put in new stuff. And so the mom just kind of cuts him off because, she has an agenda. So the mom was like, oh, okay, so you're talking about making new changes for the new year. Okay, I see. So are you going to start making new changes for the new year by being more honest with Ari and telling her everything and communicating everything and not lying to her? Are you going to make those kind of changes for the new year? She had an agenda. So Benny was like, okay, yeah, like I have no issue with being honest with her, but whenever I am honest with her, she goes crazy. She starts yelling at me, and I don't like that. And so then the mother says, okay, Ari, this is what we're going to do. He's going to be open and honest with you. He's going to tell you everything, and you're going to not yell at him. Okay? Capiche? Okay, good. And then Leandro also had to put in his 2 cents. And he's like, so what kind of changes are you going to make in your... Leandro, how about we start off with this change? Let's have you stay out of our business. Let's have you shut the hell up. Let's have you never come in front of Benny's face again. Can we start with that change, Leandro? So, Ari then announces that she's going to go dress shopping with her mom, maybe her sister, and Leandro. And Benny was like, why don't you just go dress shopping with your mom? Obviously, he didn't like it. And then they talk about how Leandro was the one that chose Ari's dress when she had the traditional wedding or whatever it was, I think in Ethiopia with Benny. Ari had chosen that dress or something. And then the mom made a very inappropriate comment. The mom said something like, well, did he said something like Leandro chose her bra that she wore that day or something to that effect. Just something really inappropriate. Like they're rubbing it in Benny's face that Leandro is here. He's here to stay and you're just going to have to accept it. And we're going to make inappropriate jokes and we're going to make what do they call it? Inside jokes because you have no idea because Leandro and us, we have this deep, long history and we're going to flaunt this in your face every chance that we get. So Leandro says in his confessional, I'm a part of the family and I'm not going anywhere. Okay, as if that's like, like it's a threat. Like it's a threat. And it's because I really do believe, y'all, that Ari, I don't know about Leandro, but I know for a fact that Ari has some type of feelings towards Leandro. And Benny, anyways, that's fine. Go ahead. Let Benny be very passive. Let Benny be very polite. Let Benny just sit there and take it because he's going to reach his breaking point. And Leandro, you know how Benny gets down in the ring because he's put you in a damn chokehold. If you want to come back for a second round of chokeholds and a third, fourth, and a fifth round, this is the man that's going to give it to you. Moving on. Taise and Patrick. Okay, so Patrick says, we've been fighting a lot lately, so he's planned a getaway trip for just him and Taise to kind of reconnect, and so he's planned a trip to Vegas. When he tells her, she's so excited about seeing Vegas. So he tells her, we're going to be meeting up with my brother and his husband Carlos, and Patrick gives us a brief history. He says that he's lived in Vegas for 14 years, so he's very familiar with the territory over there, and Patrick is hoping that his brother will give him some kind of insight on Taise. So they're in Vegas, and it was just so cute to see Taise get excited about being in Vegas because I know that it's a world away from Dallas, Texas. So she's so excited about being in Vegas, and she's taking pictures of everything, and it was just really nice. They see some showgirls walking down the boulevard, and she's like, "Oh my God, look at them! Who are they?" And he tells her those are showgirls, and that's what they do. To make money, you can take pictures, whatever. So then, they meet up with his brother Matthew. And they're having dinner or whatever, and Matthew asked Taise something like, well, how does your family feel about him? And she said that, well, my dad actually doesn't even know that I'm here to get married. And Patrick looked at her like, excuse me, what? So he had no idea. The whole time he thought that her family was in the know and that they were approving of everything. So she's like, yeah, my dad doesn't even know I'm here to get married. So on their way back to the hotel, he's like, what do you mean your dad doesn't know that you're here to get married? And then she explains to him that she didn't want her dad to know and that she was going to tell him after they got married. And Patrick was like, no, you need to tell him before. And she's like, no, I'm going to tell him after. And she gives some reason. She says that her dad is very jealous. I guess she means to say very protective of her and doesn't want her to get married to anybody, period. But the truth of the matter is her dad doesn't like him because he's American, and her dad thinks that American men take advantage of Brazilian women and they just use them for one thing. So yeah, so they talk about that, and he's really upset about that. Patrick is really upset about that. And Taise keeps on telling him, this is my choice. Let me handle this my way, which I feel like he should. He should be able to handle it, the way that she wants to handle it. This is her dad, her relationship with her father. She knows how to deal with him, and he should just be okay with that. What else can he do? Unless you just don't want to marry her. So Patrick says in his confessional, well, maybe I'm the idiot. Maybe she's really not serious about getting married to me at all, and that's why she hasn't told her family about it. Maybe this is just a free vacation for her. Why do we just automatically? I don't get it, y'all. you have these Americans who go to foreign countries and they want to get married to, someone from another country, but they are so quick to jump to, well, you're just here for money. You're just here for a green card. You're just here to use me. Then why don't you just get with somebody from America? Just get with somebody from the United States. If you're so worried about all these foreigners using you for one thing or another, just don't marry a foreigner and just get with somebody in the United States. I think it's a little bit disrespectful in a way just to constantly jump to that conclusion. To be like, well, maybe you're just here for my money or you're just here for a green card. Moving on. So Patrick wants he wants her to tell her dad. So I think it's like the next day. She says she's going to call her dad just to let her know, just to let him know, she's doing okay and everything is hunky-dory in America. So he says, okay, and you're going to tell your dad that we're getting married. And she says, no, I'm not. And she says, when I call my dad, don't you dare say anything to him. And he's like, you know what? I'll do you one better. I'm going to go ahead and leave because I don't want to be a part of your lies. And so he takes off and he leaves. So she calls her dad. She's really excited to tell him about Las Vegas. She shows him the city and everything. And he's like, you know what? Bump all that. When are you coming back? That's what I want to know. And so she's like, okay, dad, bye. I'll talk to you later. Moving on from there. So she has a surprise planned for Patrick. She gives him directions on where to go and they end up at the chapel. And so she's like, we're here at the chapel and we're going to get married. And he's like, no, we're not. And she's like, yes, we are. And I think the reason why she wanted to rush getting married was that she could hurry up and tell her dad that, everything is fine. I'm here with Patrick. He's not using me for anything at all because we actually got married. He was willing to marry me. So he's just not using me. So I think that's why she wanted to do this whole rush job with the chapel. And they get there and he's like, no, I'm not going to marry you like this. This is not how I envisioned it. You're better than this. You deserve more than this. This is how you marry a stripper in Vegas. And I'm not going to do this to you. And so she's really, really disappointed that, they couldn't get married. But I feel like she only did it because of her dad. She wants to hurry up and unburden herself with this lie. So she just wants to hurry up and get married. And plus her dad is expecting her back because she told her dad that she was going on vacation to America. So he's like, okay, when are you coming back? It's been a month. What's going on? So that's why she needs to speed things up. Moving on to Muhammad and Eve. So they're at the gym and they're working out. Eve says she wants to reconnect after all the issues that they have. And when they get to the gym, she's asking him, is this okay what I'm wearing? Is this permissible? Do I have permission to wear this? And he's like, yeah, whatever. He just doesn't want to argue with her. Eve, stop. Stop being childish. Stop being... You had that on when you left the house, correct? So he didn't say anything at the house. He didn't say anything in the car. But then you want to bring it up because you want to cause problems. So as they're working out, she talks about having a child. She says she wants to have a child. I don't want to be disrespectful, but girl, you're 47, 48 years old. Maybe she's whatever, do whatever you want. So she's talking about having a child. And he's like, you know what? Having a child to Muhammad, it doesn't really matter to him. It's not going to make or break the relationship. If they have a kid, great. If they don't, great. It doesn't really matter to him. But he tells her, if we're going to have a child, I'm going to raise my child Muslim. He makes it very clear to her, crystal clear, abundantly clear, that if they have a child, if he has a kid, he will raise his kid Muslim. End of discussion. It's not negotiable. There's nothing else to talk about. But of course, Eve wants to argue and the reason why I say she wants to argue is because she knows how he is. I know how he is, and I've known him less than she has. That when it comes to his religion, he doesn't play games, and this is how it's going to be, and you cannot change his mind. So why even bother? I feel like she really doesn't want to have a child. She just brought it up to argue with him, because she knows what he's going to say, and then she just wants to have an argument. So she's like, well, that's just not fair. That's just not fair. Or what if the child wants to make their own decision? What if I don't want to take my child and raise them in my religion or whatever? Girl, what's up with the what ifs? Stop with the what ifs. Stop with the what ifs. There is no what ifs in the world of Muhammad. There is no what ifs. Okay. He says, look, if it's going to bother you that I want to raise my child Muslim, and you don't want me to raise my child Muslim, I'll do you one better. Let's just not have a child. Exactly. Exactly. Eve, you're not that serious about having a kid. She was saying, oh, I know that, my son, he's going to be a great big brother. Da, da. Girl, stop. You're not serious about having no damn kid. You just want to argue. You want to bring up something to argue with him about. I don't understand what you think is going on. To try to convince Muhammad to not follow his religion is like trying to literally move a mountain on your own. It's not going to happen. Please accept the fact this man is devoted to his religion. He practices his religion. He wants to, whatever children he may have are going to be raised in his religion, and that's just what it is. And if you don't like it, Eve, don't have a kid with him, or go find someone who is not Muslim and have a kid with them. Moving on to Jabri and Mion. I can't give her any more time. So they're at the family dinner, and they're having dinner. Everybody, the parents, Jabri, the grandmother even showed up, even though the grandmother was like, I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'm here. And Miona and Jabri. So Miona says in her confessional that Jabri is being influenced by his parents, because she sees a change in him. And the only thing that she can figure out of what it is the fact that, he's home with his parents now and he's been talking to his parents. So it has to be his parents that are making him like this. Mahala says, as they're eating dinner, Mahala says, you know what, we have some serious concerns about y'all getting married. The parents think that they're rushing it, that they're not ready. They need more time to get to know each other, because they see a change in their son. They themselves see a change in him as well, that he's not happy, he's depressed, he's moping around. And so they're like, maybe this isn't the best idea right now. So the parents are like, well, what if you postpone the wedding? And Jabri says, well, if we postpone the wedding, she's leaving me. She's going to go back to Serbia. We're going to break up. She's not going to stay with me. And so then the parents are like, well, how strong is this relationship? How strong is the love between y'all if it's going to end because y'all can't get married right now? Y'all can still get married, but just not right now. Put a little bit more planning into this, a little bit more thought into this, instead of like doing a rush job just to get a green card. So, what's her name? Miona says, well, if we don't get married now, if he doesn't want to marry now, that just shows that he's not committed to me. So what's tea? What's up now? Checkmate. Okay. What's next? And so the mom was like, well, and then Jabri says, well, Miona, I think it's a little bit selfish that you keep on talking about your beach wedding and you want things done your way at your time. And, Miona says that you shouldn't talk to anyone else. Oh, Miona, she came right. Miona has a response to everything. Every argument, she's got a counter argument. Miona, you need to consider law school. Like, for real. You need to consider law school or politics or something, girl. So when Jabri was like, I feel like you're kind of selfish. Everything has to be done your way at your time. And, it's putting a lot of pressure on me. And then she says, well, I don't think you should be talking to anyone else about our problems. And it's our wedding and it's our business. And everyone else should butt out. And then Mahala literally said, well, there's nothing else to say. There's nothing else to say about that. And there wasn't. Moving on to Kara and Guillermo. So this is a very sad segment because they got news that Guillermo's brother, Jose Joaquin, they got news that he is in the hospital with renal failure. And it looks like it's not looking good for him at all. So they're having a discussion about the possibility of him not making it. And Guillermo says, the disadvantage of being a foreigner here in the United States is that I can't go be with my family. There's restrictions. He doesn't have his green card yet, so he can't travel right now. And, it's really sad. It's extremely sad. You would think that there'd be some type of an exception of being able to travel to be with your family in an emergency situation, and then come back and continue the 90-day process. So later on, around 4:00 in the morning, Guillermo gets the call letting him know that his brother had passed away, and he was close to his brother. Guillermo was telling us about growing up with his brother and how close they were and what his brother meant to him. And they showed us pictures of his brother, and it was really sad. His brother ended up passing away. And they tell us that the brother was very supportive of Guillermo's relationship with Kara. So it just ended on a really sad note. Yeah, that was really sad. I don't know if it ended there, but it was a really sad moment. Their segment ended there. So that is my review of 90 Day Fiance. I didn't break it up in segment because I'm so behind on everything. I'm so behind. So I have a lot more reviews to do on a whole bunch of other shows. So I have very little time. Thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this far, I do appreciate it. On your way out, please rate the video. If you like this content, please subscribe. If you don't like this content, don't worry about it. But I do appreciate you clicking on the video anyway. And I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.